What a way to start the new year. Happy New Year, everyone. Mitch Jackson here, Human.social with my special guest this morning on the West Coast, afternoon on the East Coast, Mr. Vince Howard. Vince, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. Happy New Year. Feeling good. Ready for 2021.
Oh, man, we are both so ready for 2021. And maybe we'll dive into that a little bit later on in the show, because Vince and I, for those of you that follow me on social media, you know how I feel about 2020. You know how I'm feeling about 2021. This man right here feels the same. There you go. This man right here feels the same way. And we're ready to rock and roll. And that's why I wanted to start the Human.social live video show off with you in 2021. This is a show, Vince, where we profile people that are making a positive difference in our local, national, and global communities. I love shining a bright light on other lawyers who, roll up their sleeves and go to battle for their clients in the courtroom. And I've been watching you do this over the years here in Orange County, California. We've connected on social media often, but we've never met, I don't think, in real life. Am I right about that?
You are correct.
No.
We've never met in real life. Yeah. Feels like we know each other, though.
It does, because of social, right? Because of how we're both just all in on social media. And what I'd like everyone to do is you guys hit the share button and share this out to your audience. Vince is going to be sharing the short version of his story growing up, why he became a lawyer, becoming a police officer in the Army, military police officer, after retiring and exiting the Army, becoming a plaintiff's attorney, I believe, but a trial lawyer here in Orange County, California. Vince is also going to share with the young lawyers, and we've got a lot, Vince, in the audience. And hi, everybody. I'll get to you in a second. Some of his favorite trial tips, some things that he's used in trial that have worked well, maybe some things he's thinking about using in trials coming up. So there's a lot of gems in today's show. I'm looking at all the incoming questions, you guys. Share your questions, hit the share button. If you guys want to text me your questions, join me on community, 949-577-7456. It's a text community. That's how you can connect with me one-on-one. It is me. You will be talking to me, but I'll also be monitoring your questions, so you can text them in also. All right. It's all about you. Tell me how you went from growing up. Where did you grow up? What state?
Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee.
Tennessee. We're now here in Southern California. Vince, growing up in Tennessee, what was it that led you to, why don't we start with, before becoming an attorney, deciding that you wanted to join the Army and become a police officer?
Okay, well, growing up in Clarksville, Tennessee, where I'm from, there's a major military base there, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Now, it's called that because I live on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. The headquarters of the base is in Kentucky, but most of the base is in Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee, where I'm from. So I had a very huge exposure to military life. And so as my high school career was coming to an end, I was trying to think of something that I wanted to do. And become a police officer was something, for a number of different reasons, that could be the subject of a different show, that I wanted to become. And so at the time, I worked in Dairy Queen. I was one of the best blizzard makers and cone dippers around.
So is my sister, by the way.
Oh, really? Really? Okay, very good.
And let me tell you why, because she made us, when we drove through the drive-through, we had to tell the manager, this is the best dipped cone we've ever had.
Oh, really?
I think Jana was in charge, so we definitely helped promo her career. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But in the drive-through, a lot of police officers would come through, and I'd ask them, I want to be a police officer. I want to come back here to my hometown and work. What do I need to do? They said, if you join the military, we'll definitely pick you back up. That wasn't even on my mind at the time. But around the same time I was graduating, the movie Top Gun came out. And I went to see that, and I was sold. I saw Maverick. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I said, this is going to be my end to be a police officer. I walk right into the Air Force recruiting office, and I say, I want to be Maverick. I want to fly planes. And the recruiter looked at me because I had glasses on. He says, well, you can't be Maverick because you have to have 20/20 eyesight, but you can be Goose. And that was my reaction. I was like, one, the movie's about Maverick, not Goose. 2, Goose died. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not what I came here for. So you can fly helicopters. No, that's not going to cut it. So I thought about it some more, walked over to the Army recruiting office, and that's where I signed up for Army and signed up to be a military police officer. So that's how I started.
You know, I noticed looking at your bio that you did serve your major engagement with in the Iraqi Operation Desert Storm. During your service, Vince, and I want everyone to know this, you received several awards, including an Overseas Medal, a National Defense Ribbon, and honors for marksmanship and good conduct. You would have made a great fighter pilot if you could fit in the cockpit in the
exactly.
in the cockpit. What is it called? The cockpit? Is that the right pronunciation?
That's it.
We're live. Sorry, everybody, of the plane. And so you went in the Army. You served over in Iraq. And how many years did you do?
Well, I served from 88 to 92. My overseas engagement was in Seoul, South Korea. And I was at that was the headquarters for the Theater for the Pacific Rim. 2 things that I did were sort of my claim to fame there. I served on the security detail for the then Vice President Quayle and then Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney. When they came in theater to visit, my unit, I play a part of that extensive security detail, and I even have a certificate for it. But I served over there for a number of years, and then I came back stateside and served in a little town, Herlong, California. It's between Reno, Nevada, and Susanville, California. My engagement in South Korea was real world police work, where we patrol, answer calls, go to domestic calls, do things like that. That was real police work. But there's 2 components to being a police officer in the military, and that's the fun one, the one that you hear about when you sign up. And then the second one is the not so desirable job duty when I came back stateside, was guarding items, documents, and weapons vital to national security. That means you just drive around in circles around vaults in the middle of the desert protecting things. And that was the less glamorous side of the job.
Well, at some point, both the good and bad sides of the job, at some point you decided to exit the military and go to law school, right? What was the mindset? I'm looking at some questions coming in. I guess some of our young college students are interested in what led you from the military to becoming a lawyer.
Well, what happened is at some point I did leave the military and I joined college, and I was getting ready to get out. Now, between that time, instead of going to the, at the time I was in the Reno, Nevada area. And when I got out, there was a freeze on hiring police officers. So in the interim, I worked at a detention center, went to college, and I was going to give it all a try again then. But instead, my aspiration was higher, and I was going to join the FBI. And I got a recruiter. My supervisor at the time, I was doing hotel security at one of the casinos nearby. He knew someone, FBI recruiter, and I was getting ready to do that, and my eyesight kept me from doing that again because it was too bad. And so as a backup plan, I decided to become a lawyer because I was going to college with a friend whose dad was a judge. And so his path was predetermined. He says, why don't you do that? But I hadn't done any of the things necessary. I was prepared to go to the FBI, not law school. And so I signed up and got accepted to my university's PhD program. And so for a year, while I was taking classes and teaching sociology 101, I was trying to get my ducks in a row for law school. So I was taking the LSAT, reviewing tools and things like that. And then finally got in a year later to a small law school here in Orange County, Western State. So that's
we both went to the same school, and I'm glad did you go to school at University of Reno?
Yes,
is that
I did.
Where you
University
did? So
of Reno.
Okay, so my son's buddy who he played football with here at Danny Hills High School, he's a kicker, Eric Fellinger up at up
Oh,
at
really?
Reno, place kicker and punter. Yeah, I think he's rolling into his junior or senior year. I'm not sure how much time he's seeing on
Okay.
the field, but he's been enjoying the experience. So,
Right
you
on. Go
know,
Wolf Pack.
I'll connect you guys definitely. They've had some big wins over the last couple of years, so
They have.
that they have. It's been exciting. So you roll into law school, and I don't know if you had any preference for what type of law you wanted to practice, if you knew too much about the legal system and how it was set up in the real world. But some of the questions we've got over here, you guys, and I'm paraphrasing right now. We'll bring up specific questions in a few minutes. But when you started law school, how did you know, or did you know, what to study, what direction you wanted to take your legal career? Talk to the young university students a little bit about what to expect and what went through your mind when you entered law school.
I had no clue what to expect because again, this was a B that came up, unexpectedly. So when I entered law school, I had very little knowledge about the different practice areas of law, anything like that. But what I was familiar with is criminal defense. You see that on TV. I was more familiar with that than anything else, just from TV experience, law enforcement experience and things like that. So I really focused on that. I really excelled in my criminal defense law classes. I clerked at the DA's office. My first cases that I, tried were criminal cases. So I thought that's the direction I was going to go in. And I ended up working at clerking at the DA's office, getting hired there at the DA's office. One of the first groups of people that were getting hired there, they had an academy at Riverside DA's office where they were training people from clerkship to hire, which is one of the reasons why I chose that clerkship. And I ended up getting hired. All I needed to do is pass the bar, and I didn't. And at the time, that was devastating to me. I thought that was the way I was going to go. And so I had to reevaluate my life and think about a different direction to go in, a direction I never thought of before. And so while I was studying to take the bar again, I met my neighbor who I'd seen in the gym so many times before. And it just so happens that she worked for a civil law firm across the street. And I was in an old raggedy car, and I was driving out to Riverside from Orange County for my clerkship. And at any time this car could break, and then I wouldn't be able to get to work. This was a much better option because if my car broke down, I can walk to work. It was right across the street. And so while I was studying at the bar, she introduced me. This attorney is Jennifer Johnson. She's a very prominent attorney here in Orange County. My mentor, I've learned everything from her. She introduced me to her boss. And because I had some trial experience and a military background, they ended up hiring me for a case that they were working on at the time. So I totally fell into civil law by accident, just from knowing people. And I ended up
from knowing people. Knowing people.
Just knowing people. Most of my life, any job or anything that I've had comes from knowing people and networking. And this was another one of those situations.
I love that. I'm so glad that you highlighted that for us, because it's something that I preach all the time to college kids, high school kids, right? Starting in your high school years, whether it's with their high school teachers, their coaches, college professors. It's oftentimes, you guys, and the world shouldn't be this way, but oftentimes, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And then once that who you know allows you to get your foot into the crack of the slightly opened door, then, as it should, the weight comes back to you. You've got to perform. You got to make things happen. But you went from a military police officer to the district attorney's office, which you guys who aren't lawyers, prosecuting criminal cases, which makes sense to me, to then ending up as a civil trial lawyer because of the connections, because of the relationships. I want you to continue leading us on your path as to where you were then and where you are now. But let me ask you a question. Just, fast forward and looking back, are you glad you made the decision to become a civil attorney, or do you wish you had stuck as a prosecuting attorney in the district attorney's office?
Oh, no. I love being a civil trial attorney. I love it. Okay. And I'm glad things ended up the way they did, because they could have been quite different, But no, I don't regret it. I love what I
So,
do.
so you start practicing civil law. And by the way, everyone, let me just take a moment and reset for those of you joining us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, a couple of different Facebook's page. We actually have some people watching over at the blog post, human.social. You guys ask your questions, bring them in. Okay. We're going to put Vince on the spot. If you're a young lawyer, if you have a trial, maybe a trial challenge, you have a trial coming up, you have a challenge as to maybe how you want to introduce evidence or cross-examine a witness. This is a good time to ask someone who's been there and done that. Share this on social media, share your questions. And we've got about 5 questions that have come in via text to my community, text community, you guys, 949-577-7456. And we'll do our best to try to run all of them if we have time, Vince, by you on behalf of everyone in the office. So you start practicing civil litigation. Did you start practicing out in Riverside, or were you back down here in Orange County?
No, so the civil job was here in Orange County. Oh, it was a law firm at the time over in the Fashion Island area. And so I'm here, and it's civil. And so there's vastly different things, that go on in civil and that go on in criminal law. But I had a very good mentor, Jennifer Johnson. She's a very good trial attorney, medical malpractice attorney here. Worked with Dan Hose, Jeff Millman, Tom Schultz, all stalwarts of the community. So I had the opportunity of learning from some of the best attorneys in Orange County. I turned on even to this community from another mentor of mine, Alan Brown, who is a fellow past president of Orange County Trial Lawyers Association. I remember he was one of my professors, adjunct professors, number one, but I remember him bringing Yoshi Kubota and Jack Veth, all past presidents of Orange County Trial Lawyers Association, along with me, to my school and just exposing me to the civil side, telling me about the organization, about this group of attorneys. So once I started practicing on the civil side, I immediately joined Orange County Trial Lawyers Association under the tutelage of Alan Brown, Yoshi Kubota, who took me under their wing and just really showed me the ropes. And it became an organization I fell in love with and eventually president of in 2016.
Which leads us up through, today, recent activities. That's something I want everyone to listen to. You just shared your journey coming from the military, Reno, Nevada, coming down to Orange County, going to law school, doing what you needed to do to pass the bar, networking, Riverside, Orange County, to becoming the Orange County Bar President in 2016, I believe. Also along your journey, you became an AV rated attorney by Martindale-Hubbell, which is the highest rating, you guys, independent rating. You can't buy it. You can't negotiate for it. It's something where it's the highest level in ability and ethics that an attorney can achieve. Other lawyers in the community, other judges in the community are the ones that rate you. Okay, it's a confidential survey. Lisa and I, that was one of the most proudest days of our lives, Vincent, when Lisa and I, and for those of you who don't know Lisa, she's not only my wife, but my partner. We met in law school 30 plus years ago. When we got our AV ratings and our firm got our highest rating, something similar to that, it meant a lot to us. It was a big deal because it tells you that the community respects your ability and your ethics. So you go from unknown in Orange County as a lawyer to president of the 2016 president of the Bar Association. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
I think so. I mean, it felt good for me because that organization has given me so much. The women and men of that organization make time to mentor young attorneys, train young attorneys, take young attorneys under their belt, and they did that with me. And so I felt like I had gotten so much from the organization that by the time, you work your way through the ranks to be president, you've given, at the time, 8 years of your life to at least to the organization. And this was my way of giving back. And so me getting sworn in 2016 was a big deal for me. And also that year, I was inducted into Western States Hall of Fame due to the efforts of attorney Bill Shapiro, another stalwart of our local community here. that made me proud as well, because I remember on the first day walking into Western State, it's in a different location now, but the way it was configured then, you walk down this hall and you see these pictures of everyone in the Hall of Fame. And I remember me and my friends walking down that hallway thinking, wow, one day I want to be here. And so 2016 was a pretty good year for me in that regard. So, yeah.
Can I ask you a follow-up question about law school? Because we've
Yes,
got a couple of
please.
questions here. So let me just combine a couple. I remember walking through that hallway my first day,
Yeah.
and I was intimidated. I would never thought of being the brightest bulb in the lamp. I wasn't an A student. I frankly just didn't, I had other things on my mind than hitting the books 24/7. But when I decided to go to law school, I decided, okay, it's game on. I'm going to drop gloves and just do everything I can to be successful in law school. And it worked out. But it was intimidating walking down that hallway past all those pictures, thinking, okay, this is the time. So my questions look like, number one, what did you enjoy most about law school? Number two, what courses would you recommend I take if I want to be a trial lawyer? It's a good question. And number three, is it okay to make friends with your professors? Is it okay to get to know the staff, the administration at your law schools? Interesting questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me answer those. Yes, I became friends with all my professors and the staff there. Very much so. I think that's fine. I did it. There's nothing wrong with that. As far as classes to take, if you want to be a good trial attorney, evidence. I mean, hands down, excel at evidence and civil procedure, in my opinion. If you know your evidence code forwards and backwards, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I think those are the two number one classes that I can recall that you need that are going to help you out in being a trial attorney. What was the first question?
Well, I think we touched upon it, but was it intimidating at all when you started law school?
I'm going to say no, because one, I didn't fully understand what law school was going to entail, because this was a last minute decision for me. But two, I was an older student by the time I'd come to law school. I had a previous profession. I was married. I was getting divorced and had a child. I was older. I was in my 30s. And so it wasn't as intimidating to me as it might be to someone, 18, 19, 20, 24 years old in life.
Right.
So it wasn't. I had realized, I think one of the things that helped me get through it is that I had firmly realized by then what you just meant earlier, Mitch, is that it's not what you know, it's who you know. So, I, of course, like in everything I do, I'm going to do the best that I can at whatever it is that I'm doing. But if I didn't make straight A's, it wasn't the end of the world for me. Although I was perplexed by the law school grading system, because I had done very well in college with very little effort. And I thought I could come into law school doing the same thing. And I quickly realized that that's not the case. I remember when I got my first
those A's
C,
are far and few, but those A's are far and few between, and C's are pretty common.
Absolutely. I remember when I first got a C, because they give you in 2 points or whatever. I was like, my gosh, what is a 2-point whatever? I'm like, is that? I never knew what it was. All I got was A's and B's. So that it was a reality check. But
so just keep plugging away. Just keep plugging away, right?
Yeah,
for
exactly.
those law school students out there, just keep plugging away and keep following your passion. And listen, here, one of the things for me is walking down that hallway. True story. I felt like probably day 3, burning the candle at both ends, up all night trying to figure out how to brief a case, and I'd read the same con law or tort case over and over, and it just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, there's something wrong here. I don't understand. Because when you start law school, you guys, you start reading these old cases, and it's old language, and they wrote different, and it was just a different attitude. And so I'm thinking there's something wrong with me, right? So I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm walking down the hallway, and I see a friend of mine walking the other direction towards me. His name's Norm Katnick. I don't know if you know Norm. He's a lawyer in Santa Ana. Katnick and Katnick. His dad was a lawyer. But anyway, Norm played center for the University of Arizona, and that's where I knew Norm. I grew up in Tucson, went to the U of A, squeezed a 4-year degree into a 5-year experience, which explains everything. And I do it again in a second. But I see Norm walking down. I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, my family's from Santa Ana. I'm going to law school just like you. So I started complaining about how much time I was putting in. He goes, stop. He goes, Mitch, you don't know this. I'm married and I have 3 kids. Married and 3 kids his first year of law school. He goes, you got to start complaining and roll up your sleeves and go to work, pal. And it was really good advice that Norm gave me, and it kept me focused. So you just got to keep pushing forward, right? So let's turn around, because we have a bunch of questions. You're practicing law. You're starting to try cases. Have you always done? Why don't you tell us what type of cases are you handling now, and have you always handled these types of cases, or did you handle other types of cases when you first started?
When I first started, the cases I handled when I first started are much different than the ones I now. When I started off, the firm that I worked at was a mass torts pharmaceutical litigation med-mal firm. And so we did a lot of medical malpractice cases here locally, but I worked in the part of the department that handled cases on a national basis. So bad drugs, bad medical devices, things of that nature. So I was usually part of a team that did a lot of discovery, drafting motions, making court appearances in relation to those. Not a lot of trial experience on those cases, because those are cases, literally, there was a case I started in 2004 that didn't finish till after I left the firm in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a case that took a long time. And so there wasn't a lot of trial experience there. It wasn't until I left the firm and started my own firm where I did a lot more firm management and things of that nature, business of law. And then when I decided to dissolve my firm and then work with my friend Rob Gibson, where I'm at now at Gibson Hughes, started getting into the act of trying cases again. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with my buddy. Rob is, the year I was president of Orange County Trial Lawyers, he was president of the County of Boda, American Board of Trial Advocates. And Rob's tried a little over 100 cases. And anyone who tries cases, they know it's a stressful event, preparation and work that goes into it. And when you are by yourself, all of that falls onto you. But I've seen attorneys as of late get into the habit of trying cases with someone for various reasons. But
you broke up a little bit. Get in the habit of doing what?
Trying cases with other people.
With other people, okay.
Instead of doing it themselves. And so, because it's stressful. But when you can divide the duties up amongst another experienced trial attorney, it takes some of the pressure off of you. But in my opinion, it makes it more fun. And so now when I try cases, I usually try them with my friend Rob Gibson. He's an excellent attorney, great friend, and we have fun doing it together. And it makes it a much more enjoyable experience, in my opinion.
Did you tell Rob I said hi? Did you play sports in high school, by any chance?
Oh, yes. In high school, I did. Yes. I wrestled. I played football my freshman year, but 10th, 11th, and 12th, I focused on wrestling and track is what I did. Gotcha.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking is what I've noticed is, for me, it's a lot like high school sports for me. In other words, if you're practicing all week long, and then when those Friday night lights go on, it's game on, and it's fun. It's fun, no matter how hard. If I'm lining up a wide receiver and I'm up against one of the best defensive backs in the state, it's tough, it's hard, but it's fun, it's competitive. Absolutely. And I think trials, for me, it's the same way. And maybe talk to us a little bit about that. We have a lot of young trial lawyers here. So Vince, do you get nervous while picking a jury or before you're opening statements? I guess that's so. Do you get nervous before your trials? And if so, how long does it take for the nerves to go away and you start having fun, in your words? It's a good question.
I get nervous before any trial, anytime. I get nervous before I do public speaking. I got nervous before I came on here today. So for me, it's nerves. But once you get in there and I ask my first question and we start our first engagement, the jurors and me, the nerves start to go away. And
Yeah.
definitely by opening statement, I'm in a flow and now I'm in the zone. And so, yes, I'm always nervous before every trial. But
I am
once
too.
I ask that first question and we get started, your mind shifts. You don't have time to be nervous. In the military, you learn to adapt and overcome. Your brain switches, and you just get into the groove, and the nerves just go by the wayside. For me, it does. Yes.
Me too. I think, I've tried 70 plus, real cases, not just hearings, but, real jury trials.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still nervous, I'm nervous because I want to do a good job for my client.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm nervous because, like you just said, we can have cases that have lasted years in litigation. And
Yes.
now everything's coming down, and people don't realize this. Everything's coming down to 12 people who we've never met, who don't like lawyers. They don't want to be on jury duty. They don't want to be away from their families and their work. They're not getting paid. Everything's coming down to what they're going to decide. And that's why I get nervous, because I want to make sure I'm doing a good job for my client. But I'm with you. After about 30 seconds, it switches from being nervous to just being excited to have the opportunity to be there. And a good friend of mine out of Florida, Saul Gruber, he's you know Saul, right?
Yes,
he's an
I know
outstanding
Saul.
trial consultant, and he talks about, it's great to have other people to try cases with. It gives you a second set of eyes. Someone needs to be watching the jury and the judge. So
Absolutely.
I guess if Saul's backing up what you're saying, then I guess, that makes sense, right?
Oh yeah. And Saul's a friend. I met him through American Association for Justice, and he's also a really good trial consultant as well. Yes.
He is. He's in my Legal Minds Mastermind, and he's a key contributor to offering trial advocacy tips to all the members. So Saul, for that, thank you very much. And thanks for sharing and stopping by and saying hi to Vince. So your you know what, here's what I want to do. Let me take a step back, and I need to talk less and let you talk more, but that's hard when you're a lawyer, right? That's what
I think we're doing good. I think we're doing good.
All right. Okay. So I'm trying to balance the questions here with the time that we have left. And we've got about 20, 30 minutes, you guys. So I'll do my best. So Vince, so you start taking on, talk to us about as a trial lawyer, starting from when you're first contacted by a prospective client. It may be a long relationship. You may be working with this client for years before your case goes to trial, before the case settles. What are things you look at? What advice can you give young lawyers when it comes to client acquisition, when it comes to that first interview, when it comes to deciding whether or not you want to take on a case? What are some of the things that you look at?
Oh, wow. One of the things that I look at in listening to the client's story is seeing just accessibility. I mean, look, good clients help make your case. You can have a good case, but have a horrible client, and it can hurt it. So one of the things I'm looking for when I'm meeting with a client is I'm assessing their credibility. Do they come across as truthful? Do they come across as credible? Because those are some of the things that the jury is going to be looking at if it makes it to a jury trial. And that's the difference between someone who tries cases and someone who doesn't try cases. They tend to work the cases up a bit differently. I think once you tried cases and you realize or have some clue as to what a jury is looking for, you start gathering your evidence and discovery responses a little bit differently. So that's one of the things I look at when I'm meeting with a client for the first time. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I know when I tried my first case like 5 or 6 months after I opened up my office, right, in 86. Had some guys that just had some pending actions, and I just stepped in and tried them. But Troy Rowe, who's a mediator arbitrator here in Orange County, back in the day when he was a plaintiff's attorney, he gave me the advice, Mitch, the most important thing to do as a trial lawyer is to try your first case. Get in there and try your first case, because then you'll understand the full circle of how you're crafting your pleadings, how you're creating your causes of action, how you're conducting your discovery. There's some things in discovery you might not want to bring up. You might want to save it for trial, right?
Absolutely.
And so the best advice I ever got was, start trying cases. And you're going to, it all comes together after you try a few cases. So you've used this criteria to bring in these new clients into the firm, and just once again looking at questions. What once you're in trial, Vince, what are some of your favorite parts of a trial? Do you prefer crossover closings? Do you prefer picking a jury? Do you like getting big verdicts? Okay, so we're getting all types of different questions. We all like getting big verdicts for our clients, but what's
Absolutely.
your favorite part about a jury trial?
I think the favorite part for me is opening statement. I like that, but what I do more of is closing argument. So I do more closings than I do openings. Rob and we have it set up that way, where I usually pick the jury and do the closing. He does the opening, and then we split up the witnesses. But I don't know. I have a buddy who's at the DA's office, and we've gone back and forth on this. He likes doing closing argument, and I do too. There's a little bit more you can do there. But I like, although I don't do a lot of, I like doing the opening statements to set the tone and kind of put the people in the jurors' right mindset. But closing as well.
Well, when it comes to opening statements or closing arguments, and for those non-lawyers watching, an opening statement's the opportunity for us to first address the jury, explain what the evidence is going to show, right, and kind of give an outline or guidelines as to what the case is all about. Now, between you and I, Vince, we both know it's about building rapport. It's about making that first connection. It's about selling your case to the jury without selling it to the jury and becoming that leader in the courtroom. Closing arguments, you guys, is where you hammer home, this is what the evidence showed. This is what your obligations are as jurors. This is what our community and society needs. This is what we need you to do. So you can argue in your closing, and in our openings, we're not supposed to argue. Yeah. But here's a little secret. Good trial lawyers, we argue in our opening statements. Don't tell anybody I said that, right? So
that's our secret.
It's our little secret. So having said that, any tips for young lawyers, trial lawyers, on some things they may want to try to incorporate in their opening statements in 2021, or maybe their closing arguments? Anything on the table that you're comfortable with sharing? I don't want you to share all of your secrets, but.
Oh, no. I think, look, if you're going to do this trial work at all, I think, and if you want to get better at it, I think one of the things that you should start working on now is learn to be a good storyteller. Look, when you take these trial courses, whether it's Trial Lawyers College, Trojan Horse, Trial by Woman, Trial by Human, any of those things, the basis of those programs is how to tell a story. Because Mitch, you said it several times during this broadcast, is that, look, our job is to connect with jury. And one of the ways to do that is to tell a compelling story, to tell your clients compelling story. And so, as much as you can to get practice in doing that, do that. One of the professions that does a pretty good job at telling the story, comedians. Yes. A good comedian tells a good story that you find engaging and entertaining, and then sometimes you're going to laugh at it. And one of the ways you can practice this a lot, well, not so much now because of COVID, but a lot of the places around here for a few $100s will teach you how to write a story and how to tell it in a comedic fashion, and then will allow you to do it on a Thursday or Friday night to people. They videotape it and they critique you. Now, that's very frightening to a lot of people because you're doing something new. You're getting on a stage in front of people and telling this story, this funny story, and then you're getting critiqued on it later, but it will make you better. I've had a couple of attorney friends take courses, and they have come back and told me how much better it's made them as an attorney. So that's one tip I would focus on.
Probably the most important tip. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think attorneys that learn how to tell great stories, but also not just entertain with a great story. While you're telling that story, you're empowering your jury to make the decision, giving them permission when they go back into that jury deliberation room to do what you need them to do, because it's the right thing. It's the only thing. It's the proper thing to do. But also, improv. also
Yes.
right, maybe
Mhm.
NLP type of techniques. And one of my
Yeah.
favorite holiday gifts this year is Lisa and I picked up a subscription to Masterclass, which
Oh,
is
wow.
something we can do on our phones. You guys, it's like
Mhm.
$180 for 2 people for a year. And
Mhm.
my first Masterclass was with Steve Martin,
Oh,
how to be a
wow.
comedian. Right? But here's the thing, you guys.
Wow.
Why is a trial lawyer watching Steve Martin? Because Steve did what Vince just described. He shared how to tell a story, how to build your personal brand. And I
Mhm.
think everything that Steve shared in the 7 or 8 video courses, which was outstanding, I can
Oh,
bring
wow.
back, to live video, to social media, into the courtroom, because
Mhm.
for the reasons you shared, Vince. So I encourage everyone, check out Masterclass, because there's storytelling techniques, there's personal branding, there's marketing. Lisa's
Wow.
enjoying the cooking experts on the class. We had
Wow.
Maria, who's a big supporter of the show. Hi, Maria. It's good to see you. She asked, what do you think's more important, opening or closing, or does it depend on the case, Vince?
Hmm. I've heard people say one or the other. But if I had to choose just off the hip right now, uh, and if I can only pick between these two, I'd say maybe closing. I'd say maybe
Yeah.
closing. I don't know. What about you, Mitch? What do you think?
Well, I think they're both important. I think that
Hmm.
if you start off with pick the jury correctly, I think picking a jury is really important, Maria.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if I pick the right jury, it's not a matter of if I'm going to win the case or not. I think the question is how large will my damages be? I have a pretty good
Yeah.
feel after I pick a jury how things are going to turn out. And the reason I say
Yes.
that, you guys, and Vince, you can elaborate on jury selection, because we're having some questions here. For example,
Hmm.
what's your favorite way to do voir dire, to pick a jury? So that's my question I'm gonna ask you. But what
Hmm.
everyone needs to understand is this is an opportunity where we can actually talk with the jurors and ask them
Hmm.
open-ended questions. And good lawyers ask questions, stop talking, and listen. And they watch the body
Yes.
language of everybody else, right?
Yes.
Bad
Yes.
lawyers instruct and teach and dictate, and
Yeah.
and and they're not developing a bond with the jury. So I would say jury selection, and then kick ass in your opening statement, close the deal, in your closing argument, and you're
Hmm.
probably, 9 times out of 10 going to like the results. Selecting a jury. Do you have any tips for young trial lawyers on how to do voir dire?
Yes. One, and this goes back to ways to connect with the jury, is be yourself. You really
Yes.
just have to be yourself and not be anyone else, because you're yourself, you're authentic, and that comes across to the jury. And another thing is, when you're doing voir dire, to be brutally honest. Let the jury know. You got to be really honest with them, because you want them to be honest with you. You have to also be that with them. And if you do these things, you will come across as authentic. You'll start to connect, and they'll start to feel comfortable, and then they'll start to give you answers to your questions, authentic answers to your questions, so that you can make the right decision on, who to let go, who you want to keep, and things of that nature.
When you're doing another question, when you're doing jury selection, and I think this applies to pretty much every aspect of your case during trial, Vince.
Hmm.
Do you use a laptop? Do you use notes? How do you recommend connecting with your jury when you're conducting a trial? That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
We have a lot of
And
lawyers that do this, Vince, right, with their
oh,
laptops. And
yeah, and they miss stuff. They miss stuff. If you're concentrating on a laptop, if you're concentrating on writing stuff down, like Mitch said, you're not paying attention to what that person is saying. You're focusing too much on what your next question is going to be. And I see attorneys sometimes miss good information that a juror has given you, because she or he is so focused on what's their next question going to be. What I like to do is I like to outline some areas of concern in my case, or topics I want to discuss with the jurors, and go from there, instead of a rigid, question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because that way I can look down briefly. I want to cover this topic. I'll put out a question, and then I kind of let the jury guide me on what's the next question, or what the next information is going to be. And when that kind of dies down and I feel like I've gotten my responses, glance down, I can go to the second topic or whatever it is. And that's, again, goes back to why I like trying cases with someone, because while I'm doing that, while I'm engaging in talking with the jury, whoever I'm trying the case with, they're taking notes, they're writing stuff down, they're watching the jury and things of that nature, so that when I'm done, we sit down and then Rob and I compare notes and about how we want to move from there. And so that's what I focus on when I'm doing voir dire.
I love that response. You guys pay attention, and this is, being recorded. You can watch this, later on with other members of your firm, because Vince is dropping some real value bombs. You guys, this is good stuff. You want to play to your audience. You want to give them what they need to hear. One of my favorite questions during voir dire is, it depends on the facts, depends on the case, depends on the judge, Vince. But if I can get something out, something like, what do you need to see in this case to find in favor of my client, or to find that my client's broken arm never healed, or to find that my client didn't run the red light, the defendant ran the red light? What do you need to see? Now, if you can get that type of question out and listen to what they need you to prove in court, then what Vince just said is, then you modify your presentation of evidence to spoon feed them what they're telling you they need to see. It's not that complicated. That's not what most lawyers do, right? They tell the jurors what the jurors need to do. And so real quick, maybe we can do some rapid fire Q&A if that's okay with you, but take your time. I don't want to rush you. By the way, if anybody wants to connect with Vince after the show, I'll share his information with you, and I'll have him do the same. So if you have questions, you can reach out to him. I'm sure he'd be happy to spend time, maybe you by the hand. And that's why I've got him on, because I know he's that kind of guy. And we want more good trial lawyers, more good, ethical, hardworking lawyers helping consumers. I mean, that's why he's past president of the Orange County Bar Association. That's why I do what I'm doing. Can you share with us one or two of your favorite lawyer stories, wins, funny stories, whether it's in court or out of court? Interesting. Lawyer stories. Anything that's happened to you that you're either super proud of, maybe embarrassing, something you'll always remember, whether it's in or out of court. I guess this shows the human side of you a little bit. That you can share publicly. And if not, that's okay. I'm not sharing everything on live video. Any big wins, anything that's happened that you're just super proud of? I'll keep it easy.
Look, whenever I am able to win a case for one of my clients and they're happy, is a proud moment for me, because like you pointed out earlier, Mitch, look, our firm buys cases. So in 90% of our cases come from referrals. They're from other firms who have been litigating cases, for years, and it's coming up to trial. So last minute they bring us in. So that client has been dealing with this case for a number of years by the time it gets to us. And then when we try that case and win for them, there's such a relief for them. And so, seeing that relief, seeing them thank us for finally bringing a resolution to this case really makes me happy each and every time I do it. And that's the work that I do, even in the trial lawyer organizations that I'm in. I love lobbying on behalf of our clients, whether it's in Sacramento or Washington, D.C. on the national level. I love doing that. A lot of Californians here don't realize that you have a lobbying group that lobbies for your interest for consumer rights on your side, Consumer Attorneys of California. And when I have that talk with a lot of people who aren't attorneys, they are shocked to hear that, but most states have that. But I love doing stuff like that as well. That's proud work as well.
And do you recommend that lawyers opening up their own practices, lawyers thinking about transitioning into trial work, become involved in the local and state trial lawyer organizations?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I think if you're going to practice civil law, period, at the very least, I think you need to be plugged into your local lawyer organization, because there's mentorship there. There's a document bank that you'll have access to, especially if you are a solo practitioner. I always think it's good to have a community of people that you can bounce ideas off of and get them to a fresh set of eyes looking at your case. And if you don't have a huge network of people to do that, your local, state, national organizations will provide you with the community that can help you do that. Absolutely.
I love that. Love that. You know, I think my heavy duty involvement with the local bar associations was before you arrived on the scene. I think I put in about 20 years.
Yeah.
Frankly, the kids and everything else, for me as a lawyer, and we can talk about this, you know, balancing your sanity, balancing stress, the demands of being a lawyer with your personal life, with your hobbies, your interests and passions. You have to find that right balance, right? Because the people who we're helping, they all have a huge challenge in their life. That's why they need a lawyer oftentimes, right? And so we're taking that weight. I think good trial lawyers, they take that weight and put it on their shoulders. And they say, I've got you. Let me handle this. We're going to make this okay to the best of our ability. And for me, after about 20 years, I needed to kind of take a step back and spend more time on the sidelines with my kids in sports and doing other things that I do. Having said that, what do you recommend to trial lawyers who are, you know, they have litigation practices, they're trying cases, a couple of cases a year, maybe more. And how are you balancing your professional, the demands of a professional trial lawyer, the stress, with, you know, staying healthy mentally and physically, if you are? I think you are. And what advice do you have for all the other lawyers out there? I think it's important.
Yeah, you know, I think it's important for attorneys to make time for themselves, you know, because look, if you like Mitch said, if you have a busy trial practice, you're constantly in court, you're constantly trying cases, you're constantly doing things for your clients. It's very easy to put yourself on the sidelines and sometimes even neglect yourself. But look, you have to look at it this way. If you are not taking care of yourself, you can't be your best for your client. So I think for me, work-life balance always came a little easier because it's part of what I learned being in the military. Adapt, overcome, time management, you know, how to manage different things. Really, the Army really helped me do that. And I take that in every aspect of my life. So I've always tried to make time for myself because I realize that when I am healthy or if I'm in a good mental and physical state, it makes me a better attorney. So for me, it was always a priority. So it's what I always did.
So we're not going to get to everyone's questions. I'm sorry about that, you guys, but I will I will share Vince's contact information both on social and at his firm, and you guys can wrap up with him. Couple of final questions, Vince. You know, I happen to know that you are actively involved on social media. Talk to us a little bit about, you know, how are you using social media? What are you using it for? Is it bringing in clients to the firm? And have you gotten any big cases from social media? There's 3 or 4 questions right there.
Okay. I am very active on social media, but I use it more of a sounding board for my political views, you know, is what I've been using it for lately. Also to keep in contact with family members that live overseas and you know, here in the United States. So that's what I mainly use it for, but I'm very active on social media. Facebook and Instagram mainly. Mitch has opened my mind into other platforms that I will be exploring here shortly.
Absolutely.
But I don't use it a lot for client acquisition. A lot of my client acquisition has come from over the years through networking in the trial lawyer organizations, and that has been very helpful for me. It's the in-person stuff, but maybe I do have to get better with my social media networking client acquisition with the changes of COVID, because I haven't been to any, you know, network functions here lately. But that's just
great point. No, great point. I mean, we have to adapt to our surroundings. And I think for professionals or business owners, whatever we're doing for a living, those of us that have built out a brand on social, Vince, it's been a couple of speed bumps, but that's about it. This is business as usual for all of us. And so we can spend our time, you know, helping our clients. Real quick about social media. I know I've used social media both to help my clients and take on defendants in trial with posts and things like this, things that people put up on Facebook. So the question is, let's see, we're getting ready. Looks like they're getting ready for litigation. It's a vague question. We're getting ready for litigation. Should we be worried about what we've posted on social media?
Is this
This is like it's not one of my clients. It's just somebody asking a question. Looks like they're getting ready to roll into litigation this year. Apparently, they have some concerns about what's on social media. I don't know what state they're in, and I know the laws are different in each state. Yeah. Generally speaking, maybe you can comment a little bit about, clients posting on social media. Good, bad. What's the upside? What's the downside?
Well, this is I have a social media letter that I send out to my clients, and when I meet with my clients, I always tell them this. It depends on the case, but almost invariably, I tell them, look, in a perfect world, what I would like you to do is to make your account private. I never tell them to erase or delete anything, but make your account private and really just stop posting to social media. Period. For the entire pendency of the litigation. Now that's hard for some people to do. Some people are like, fine, not on there anyways. I said, but if you have to post, don't post anything about your case. Don't post anything about your case. And there's other more detailed information I give them depending on the facts of the case. But really, I just tell them to stay away from social media altogether, because it's been my experience, especially over the course of the last couple of years, that once litigation starts, opposing counsel, they hire investigators and they pour through your social media and they pull stuff from there that you think they wouldn't or couldn't find. And it hasn't happened to me a lot. My clients are pretty good about taking my advice, but there have been times where you're in a deposition and something pops up and you look over at your client and it hurts their case. It's never knocked the case out, but I've dealt with a few situations where some social media posts have caused some issues in their case. I'll
second what Vince just said. I had a defendant on the stand. It was an assault and battery and bullying type of case, along with some other causes of action. And he'd just gotten done answering my questions on cross about how he would never call someone that name, how he would never speak to a woman that way, how he would never, he's not that kind of person, right? So after about 20 minutes of getting him to testify to about 6 bullet points that I had, I brought up his Facebook post, which we had ahead of time. And of course, every word that he denied using was highlighted over and over and over. And the jury's like, oh my God, right? And so we talked to the jury afterwards, and that was a big determining factor on who to believe. They're like, Mitch, he just denied doing all of this stuff. And then you showed us what he did. And then, oh yeah, now he remembers. So he didn't have any credibility. Last question before we wrap this up.
Okay.
Do you talk to your jurors? Do you and Rob talk to your jurors after a trial? If so, why? How do you take the positive feedback? How do you take negative feedback? Is it important for lawyers to communicate with jurors if you can after the fact? It's a good question.
It's a good question. My answer might be a little bit different than most attorneys. But Rob and I, we never talk to the jurors afterwards. I never do.
Really?
I don't. Because my reason is this. I mean, each jury is different. And, after I talk to them, it's really their thoughts on that case that's already over. It's done. It's over with. So I have never talked. I've never spoken with it. One time, my first criminal trial I did, I spoke with the jury afterwards only because I was new and everyone said that's what you should do.
Right.
I don't know. Like if I'm co-counseling the case and I try it, I won't talk to the jury, but I've had co-counsel talk to them. And I don't know. I didn't find the advice that he came back with particularly helpful for me in moving forward for that next jury. I mean, great information that's good there. I guess I could have done some things differently, but that's over with and it's done. It's sort of after the fact. So I don't know. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's just what I do.
It works for you. I think what works for you is right. It's almost like probably a quarterback throwing an interception. If things didn't work out in that trial, you've got to take the snap, drop back, and throw the ball again. The only reason I enjoy talking to jurors afterwards, and what happens, you guys, after trial, the judge will say, if you'd like to speak to counsel, they'd be happy to meet with you, in about 15 minutes out in the hallway or downstairs in the main lobby area. I like to ask, what could I have done different, even when I win cases? What could I have done different to save you time, to put on a more efficient case, to make this a better experience for you? But Vince, here's the thing: I had one trial, a couple of jurors said, "Mitch, you need to slow down. You're talking too fast, right? You need to slow down." So for the next trial, I slowed down.
Yeah.
And I talked slower. And after we got a win, and I come out and they go, "You need to speak faster. You talk way too slow."
see, yeah, exactly.
Every once in a while you pick up something you can put in your back pocket and use in the next trial. This has been a lot of fun. Vince, I appreciate you jumping on with me and helping start off 2021 with this live video. For those people who are listening to the podcast version of the show, audio only, which will be probably dropping next week or the week thereafter at mitchjacksonpodcast.com. Can you share with everyone how they can reach out and connect with you, whether it's your law firm website address, phone number, whatever you're comfortable with? How can people stay in touch with you, and how can people reach out to you for legal services?
Yes. My email address is vhoward@gibsonhugheslaw.com. You can find me on Facebook, Vincent Howard. If you send a friend request, just put that we met through this medium, because I don't accept everyone. But if you let me know you heard me on Mitch's show, then I will. And you can always shoot me a text or call me, 949-735-2667. All my clients have that number. I respond very well to text and phone calls.
Awesome. Vince, thank you very much. And those of you, I'll be sharing Vince's contact information in the show notes, both here on the video and over on the podcast. So super easy to stay in contact with this amazing Orange County trial lawyer. Vince, thank you very much, my friend. Stick around for just a second after we go off the air. I want to touch base with you about something. For everyone else out there, we've got a lot going on. I've got a lot of shows coming up. And if you're over on Clubhouse, join me on Clubhouse. Some amazing people, you guys, some of the top scientists, engineers, professors, teachers, scientists, lawyers are really, really sharing valuable conversations over in the platform. So connect with me there. Vince, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy the journey. 2021 is going to be a good year, and make it a masterpiece. Bye-bye, everybody.